want the same thing. We all want the same thing, to be a part of something, to feel connected to a community. But we know that that takes work. We know that that takes work and intentionality. We know that that takes work. Due to the external pressures, competing demands on our time and our attention, it's usually much easier to access our isolation default as that go-to coping mechanism that we tell ourselves, this allows me to focus. This allows me to focus. But the reality is the human connection, the connection to a community, whether it's personal, professional, or cultural, is how we all survive and thrive when a crisis disrupts our normative state. Speaking of normative states, look at us right now. Look at it. Look, we're all behind a screen. Virtual. And we still need to be connected. We count on being able to stay connected to those places, those environments, and people where you know you belong. It's where you feel more safe. Think about it. It's where you feel more safe. It's where you're more productive. It's where you take more risk. It's where innovation has its loudest voice. The reality is, it's where you belong. It's where you belong. It's where you belong. I want you to think about those moments in your life. Just let this go in for a second. Think about those moments in your life, personal or professional, when you honestly could say, with conviction, I belong here. I belong here. Now, I know we're virtual, but I can see you, so raise your hand. And if you've ever made the statement, I belong here, just sort of raise your hand and wave at me. Okay, I don't see everybody doing that. So that means some of you, you're not listening or you don't feel like you belong. Doesn't matter. But now answer this question. Have you ever thought about this? Have you ever uttered this particular statement? We belong here together. Oh, that's interesting. We belong. Belonging. The psychosocial feeling of being connected to a social, cultural, or professional community. Now, experiencing belonging impacts overall morale, perceptions of self-esteem and self-worth, individual productivity, levels of engagement, business performance, brand loyalty, health. Actually, belonging impacts the culture. Belonging impacts the culture. Belonging, the feeling of being connected to a social, cultural, or professional community. Now consider this. I don't care where you are right now, what's happened to you over the last year. You realize that the path to belonging begins on two opposite paths. Maybe they're not opposite, but the reality is there's the insider path and the outsider path. Now, if the path to belonging begins as an insider, some of you know what I'm talking about. You have access to relevant information. You have access to additional information. And most importantly, as an insider, you experience belonging a whole lot earlier than everybody else. You feel like you have the agency to leverage the information and positively exploit human connections to progress a project and maybe even freely explore career navigation. Yes, that's insiderness. How about this? Maybe as an insider, you even impact the business at scale, and you know you did. Success for insiders, this is so interesting to me. Success for insiders is highlighted with milestones and metrics and decoded for ease of application. Interestingly enough, insiders are able to, and even invited to take more risk, Insiders are seen more favorably by others and are integrated into the fabric of the present and the future. Let me say that again. Insiders are integrated into the fabric of the present and the future. Now, if the path to belonging begins as an outsider, it's different. Relevant information is invisible and usually can only be accessed by request or selective distribution. Human connection and building relationships are tasks to be completed and transactions that need to be scheduled. Outsiders spend a disproportionate amount of time, energy, and resources focused, proving their competence, credibility, and worth. Success metrics for outsiders are ambiguous, aspirational at best. The load of decoding the culture is an independent exercise in observational acuity. Taking risk for an outsider? Non-existent. If you actually want to create a culture of belonging, you have to assess where you are now. If you want to know and understand who the insiders and outsiders are, you have to do the work. Belonging should not be accidental. Belonging should not be an accidental output of building great teams to reach a universal goal. Creating belonging should be deliberate and intentional. Moving from viewing human connections as transactional and project-based to focusing on belonging, you really have to focus on the human interactions that are way more transformative, intentional interactions daily. One of the most effective leadership traits and mindsets you can adopt and deliver is through the perspective of human first. Work output is delivered through human inputs first. Do the human-centered work first, and you'll experience exponentially higher levels of quality output and performance. Now I want you to think about this. Think about this. Who are you helping right now? Who are you helping and why? Why? Why are you helping them and not some other people? How about this? Who are your go-to people? This is a great one. Who are your go-to people? Remember, we're in a virtual environment. Things have changed for everybody. So who are your go-to people now? Who were your go-to people before? Did it change or are they the same? Answer the question, why? Who do you share information with now? Who do you share information with and why? And I'm just gonna say it. This is really good because I actually can't see a lot of how you all look at each other because you can't see each other because we're virtual. Who do you actually trust? Think about that. Who do you trust? Who do you trust? I'm telling you, you need to do the work. You need to do the work. You need to do the work. If you're an individual contributor, you're responsible for and should hold yourself accountable for the choices you make that help you navigate the personal and professional spaces you occupy. No matter if you started on the insider or outsider path, you realize you get to choose. You get to choose. If you're a people leader, life is so different for you right now. If you're a people leader over a team or across multiple teams, virtual, in-person, or hybrid, you're responsible for and should hold yourself fully accountable for creating team-level belonging. Not during moments of disruption, but as an intentional building of community. Now, if you sit in those executive leadership spaces, or in positions of influence in social or community spaces, you're responsible for and should hold yourself fully accountable for creating a culture of belonging for everyone across all aspects of business and life. Let's be intentional and focus on moving from a I belong construct. I'm gonna say that again. Let's be intentional and focus on moving from a I belong construct to a we belong culture. For everyone, we belong. We belong.